Welcome to another episode of the No Guts, No Galaxy podcast. In this episode, I sit down with Daeron and Matt from Piranha Games to discuss MechWarrior Online. We talk about current and, of course, future development, so if you're interested in that, watch the full thing. This, of course, wouldn't be possible without supporters like you. And if you like what I do here on a daily basis, or if you like watching over at Twitch at twitch.tv/NGNG just want to say thank you again for tuning in and enjoying that. Quick shout out to all my subscribers. Thank you for all the support. And speaking of support, head over to YouTube. Make sure to click like, comment. Let me know what you guys think about this episode. And by the way, on YouTube, I just launched the membership program. So if you do like this and you want to support, consider clicking on join. There's 3 tiers. If it's not for you, it's not for you. Of course, take care of yourself first. But if you like the content when I create here on a daily basis, consider becoming a member today. Speaking of becoming a member, quick shout out to 3 podcast sponsors over on my Patreon page, and that is Chad, McJiggles, and of course Jeffrey. Thank you guys for becoming podcast sponsors and jumping up to that tier level. I do appreciate it. Everybody out there, thank you so much. I hope you enjoy this conversation, and let's go just dive into it, shall we? Just a friendly reminder, we have new designs up on the store. Head over to nogutsnogalaxy.net and use code NGNG10, that is NGNG10, for 10% off all orders over $20. Matt, Daeron, thank you guys for doing this. I know I've had multiple people over the past few days, hey, when's podcast? When's podcast? And I was like, well, we had technical issues. Daeron, something about a computer, and Daeron, some technical, and anyways, here we are. And so apologies, everybody out there. We're just going to blame Daeron on this one.
Short story, I upgraded my computer for the first time in 10 years. My last build was one that Phil helped me put together, and now I have a more updated computer.
Yeah, you went from a 4790K to I think 1133, 11, yeah, 3. Yeah. So
he has a modern computer now.
Yeah, that's
ridiculous what he's been playing on and developing on. So
I went from low settings on every game to pretty much high on every game.
That was HD Phil, and is that like?
Yeah, right.
So, anyways, obviously, you guys did the devlog. It's been a while. You guys are back in the office. Things are moving forward. It's March. I reached out and said, hey, would you guys be willing to do a podcast? And here we are to talk about a few things. So,
wow.
First off, I guess the question is, we got a March patch coming up in about 2 weeks time frame. How's things been since you guys came back? How's I guess let me just jump in, because one of the biggest things you guys talked about was Matchmaker. That was one of your goals. Can you guys give an update? Matchmaker, the discussion on Matchmaker. What are you guys able to do? What can you do? Do you think you should do? And then
the update, unfortunately, isn't like probably what you want to hear, which is we haven't started the work yet. We have done some investigation, but what has happened is that the resources weren't available when we thought they were going to be, just due to shifts in projects. And those are not super negative towards like the MechWarrior brand at all. Those shifts are actually positive. So what has happened is that it's given us more time to identify other engineering tasks. So we're kind of building a bundle of engineering tasks. And so unfortunately, the Matchmaker changes aren't going to be in March, and I'm not even sure if they're going to be in April at this point. But when they do come out, they're going to come out with a few other improvements and items that we're working on in conjunction with them. So bad news, good news, I guess.
As far as Matchmaker, I know one thing, with the Cauldron being back in the day, is the Cauldron was asking, how does the Matchmaker work specifically? Are you able to provide that information to the Cauldron so they can give feedback yet? Is that anything they've been able to do, or is that where you still have resources?
That has not happened, unfortunately. Like, we haven't. I mean, realistically, the Cauldron has provided tons of documentation and design input that our engineers are able to look at, and as far as us relaying back to them how the Matchmaker work isn't really a crucial step to this at this point. At least not that I think so. Like, out of curiosity, like, what would you expect that to result in? Like, hey, this is how the matchmaker works. Oh, okay. I guess from our perspective, or from the engineer's perspective, they want to know what the issues are, and how and if we can address them within the matchmaker, and take on the suggestions of, as much as possible, the input from the cauldron, and adapt it. But that, like I said, we've reviewed the issues. We just haven't gotten the engineering time to work on to start processing for solutions. So, I mean, us telling the cauldron how the matchmaker currently works, it's possible that could happen, but it's not viewed as a crucial step to me. Do you view it as a crucial step? Like, you can feel free to tell me why I'm dumb, because
no, I'm not going to tell you you're dumb. The biggest thing is, like, one, I'm very skeptical about matchmaker changes in general. So just to be very clear about that,
I am kind of on your side of that, Phil, with, like, not skeptical, just like, the issues with matchmaker can,
well, I'll give you this.
There can be a reflection of current population and or the amount of queues, and or different things, right? Like, perception isn't always reality in those things. And I've talked about this before, when someone says, "Oh, I'd gladly wait a long time for a good match." Well, in our matchmaker, the longer you wait, the less likely your match is going to be good, because that's when the valves start opening up and allowing people from different tiers in, or different, more variety in weight classes, kind of thing.
Okay.
So it's like saying, "Oh, wait for a long time for a good match." It's actually going to have the opposite effect in our matchmaker, because you have to open up the valves, right?
So I guess that's where I could see providing the cauldron and the community, because I still feel like the cauldron, should be openly discussion thing with the community, of saying, like, maybe then they could say, "Hey, look, guys, we're looking at how matchmaker works, and this is actually pretty good as is, and all of what you're experiencing." I don't know how many times I have it on a daily basis of, like, matchmaker where someone will complain about it, but the reality of it is it's so multi-layered. I mean, because you'll have people say you need to fix matchmaker, groups are a problem, group size is a problem, weight class is a problem, tiers are a problem, you need to have more tiers, and this and that. And at the end of the day, I wonder how much of that is, like, reality. Like, when I run into stuff, is it a tier 1 problem? Is this just something that's really minute? And those are the details where, like, stats, you shared some stats a little bit ago for Mechs, which was eye-opening, because there is actually some pretty finite data of how many Mechs are being used at what tier, which are the highest and which are the lowest. To me, that's where data-driven changes, and I know you guys actually provide that to the cauldron, though it had been since, like, June or July since they had an updated list. But to me, it's like, okay, that gives the cauldron the tools to say, okay, like, for example, the dragon, 1N is really underused. Okay, let's go make adjustments to the quirks and bring that up, and stuff like that. When I look at the matchmaker, I don't know how many times in a daily basis in matches people say balance. Well, what does balance mean? Is balance that you had a chance to win, but at the very beginning you guys went left, or two went left, and because of that, then you just lost? Is it because, hey, you have a 2-man and they brought 230 tonners, didn't really perform well, whereas the other team brought a 2-man, but they there's so much subjectivity and, like,
nuance.
And I don't know what the clear picture is, and that's why I was going to ask you, when we talk about matchmaker, maybe you just don't know the answer to this, so feel free. Is, like, what do you?
I'm not a subject matter expert, that's for sure.
Well, it's like what do you?
Some stuff, but
it's like
I know what I can tune.
I think from everything I've seen from talking to Naveed and, like, Bear Claw and anybody, is that the main thing right now is that your guys' objective is fun. Like, for the community, you want balanced matches. Well, what is balanced matches? Well, it means that right now we have a balanced system of a tier 1 player shouldn't go up against tier 5 player, right? But then a tier 1 player can go up against a tier 3 player, And sometimes there's such a huge delta between a 3 and a 1. And then you get into groups, and if we're, shout out to like CLCH, and we've been dropping a lot against them, or Navid and crew, or Nonu and crew, we'll drop against them, and if we hit them multiple times, then we know, okay, we got to step up our game. Let's switch up our loadouts. Let's switch up our mechs and stuff like that. We don't know, is that indicative of tier 3 experience, tier 4 experience, tier 5 experience? Like, what is the rest of the population seeing? And are groups an issue? Is there anything that can be done? Is a second check system? Like today, we were dropping on a 4-man, and we had Data on our team, and Data is literally the top of the food chain. Like, he is an amazing player, and so that's where a second check system would have never put him on our 4-man team. It would have put him on the other team. But like, how much of that would actually impact gameplay? And then would Dad have been put on the other team and been alone and not been able to carry weight? And he's like, hey man, I can only do so much. Like, there's so much. I'm ranty now, but I guess that's my point being, is like, this is such a deep conversation.
The Matchmaker tries to balance weight classes. It tries to balance groups. It tries to balance skill. And those are the essential 3 things. And then as well, before any of that happens, it's matchmaking based on region. So if you select a specific region, you're the more regions you select, the more likely you are to have, I guess, balanced matches. And that's been one of the things that I've talked to you about before, which is like, oh, you're like, well, region we don't really care about. Well, region affects the quality of the matches in the sense that it's one of the first hard lock things that happens. So if you're searching in Oceanic only, you're only going to search within a pool of people that are willing to play on the Oceanic servers, whether they're in any part of the world. Likewise for EU or North America. So that segregates the community. So right there, even if I could create a balanced matches out of these 2 people, their paths will never cross just due to user preference, right? So then you've got to have people of equal skill sets, of the correct group and the correct weight distribution, all searching to create that perfect match, potentially, where all weight classes are balanced, all the skills are in there, skill levels, or I guess the appropriate skill levels around you, and then the groups, whether there's groups or not. Right now, I have it set to 4 instead of 5. It's just a stealth change I made on the back to see if anybody would notice, and I haven't heard a peep about it, and it's been since the last patch. So it used to be you could get groups of
3 and 2,
3 and 2, but now you can only get 2 and 2, 3, or 2 on either side, with a max group of or a group of 4, right?
Do you think, though, if I may, you mentioned those things, like it check mark on this, check mark on that. Daeron, me and you have talked a lot about this over the years, but do you think there's a difference between a balanced system of saying, on paper, behind the system, it says you guys are as even and close as possible, these 12 players versus these 12 players? That doesn't always mean it's going to end in a good game, though. Like, what? Like,
no, yeah. I mean, you can't force the player behavior.
The problem is
people go AFK, people crash.
I mean, the variable that's can always be different, even with the same person, is just their behavior on any given match. And so I feel like we have talked about it a million times over the years.
Well, I mean, you know what I'm saying, though, right? Is like people are like expecting like a 11-12, came down to the last shot. Like it was an amazing game.
That happens on an unbalanced match. You're like, oh, they're going to stomp us, or we're going to stomp them, and then it ends up being the most amazing match ever. But that's all anecdotal, right? My feeling about all of this is, let's put the time in to have an engineer look at it, go over it with the cauldron, same stuff I've said before, and maybe there's some things that we can do to make it better, to make improvements, maybe not. I'm skeptical. I have hope. It would be awesome if we could do something that people go, oh, that made matches better. I'm skeptical. I think bigger things would be team size, group size, but I do think that there's possibility that we could find something in the whole process of matchmaking, which includes everything that has to do with it, that could improve it a little bit. I don't think this is going to be like, oh my God, this changed the
Not
game.
going to be night and day. Yeah, it's not. It
No.
won't be a night and day change. It'll be like a percentage.
Let
But
me.
you know, this
improvement.
is a
It may not be
10-year-old game,
noticeable. Yeah.
and you know, getting to a point where we make changes that are going to be, you know, I just don't. Look, I want to keep making the game funner. I want to keep making it a better experience for people. But I think we're getting to the point where there's not as many things to change. And I've heard for the last year, 2 years, that the game's as balanced as it's ever been. Not specifically necessarily talking about matchmaking, but just overall.
Sure, weapon balance, mech balance. Sure, yes.
Yeah. And so, and then there's also, you know, I deal a lot with event queue. Okay. Every time we have an event queue, I'm pretty much in there throughout the 4 days that it happens. You know, I'm sitting with streamers, I'm monitoring it or watching it, you know, and that has no matchmaker, and people are having the time of their lives. Not always. I'm sure there's plenty of situations where people have complaints about it, but it's, you know, I think
It has a matchmaker. It's just opened.
well, yeah.
Well, and do you think that
the gates are open like,
comparatively, right?
and the expectations are probably different. Let me backtrack, because there's an elephant in the room that's not been addressed for years. When Paul introduced Soup Queue, there's a lot of things. Let me go through for those that don't know. MWO at the time was at its, and it was projecting, it was an all-time low player base, and this was before September of 2020. It was right before everything went down, and Paul did a test of group queue going to 8v8. Now, from my understanding, everyone who participated in group queue said it was an overwhelming success, and what it basically did is it reduced, you know, the need for players down to 8v8, and it kept solo and group. It was still separate. We didn't have soup queue yet. We never got an explanation of why it was never not done. I've asked you before, Daeron, you know, like maybe investigate and stuff like that. Is the elephant in the room right now is that all of this could be fixed as far as the expectation of groups being separated. Like, some of it at the heart really is balance of groups being with solo players. And I think some people don't realize, like, we had solo and group queue separate for years. And yes, you had issues of like group queue and balance, and that's a different thing. But like, I feel like at heart, most of the time, most of the issues is that if you're dropping in a group, regardless of skill level, you have more control of the outcome of the match. And obviously, as you move up in the ladder as far as tiers, that can become even more, you know, more powerful. And so, have you guys ever considered the thought of, you know, investigating and having a 8v8 group queue again and coming up with rules? Maybe you don't want 4-man groups, maybe it needs to be 2 or 3-mans or whatever combo. Or I know Magic has said, you know, allow solos to opt in and they can fill the gaps or whatever. But like, do you guys feel like that's even a possibility, or just no, we had, you know?
Okay, so I'll go first, Matt. My personal feeling is that maybe there's a solution there for separating the queues again. Although I am extremely concerned about not solo queue, but group queue, what that would become. And then would we just be jumping from the pan into the fire or whatever, you know, like, I don't know. And maybe allowing solo players to opt in is a solution to mediate that issue. But what I would see, okay, first of all, we have a lot of people that love to play in groups, a lot of people play in groups. And if playing in a group all of a sudden became unfeasible because wait times are 6 minutes, you know, they're thinking there's a solution here. Oh, this is just going to fix it. Separate group and solo, and it's fixed. It may not. It may be way worse. And then what do we do? Just revert, and then we spent all that time and effort and essentially money, because it's work going into it. Now, I'm not saying that that's what would happen, but that would be my concern, is that group queue would turn into crap.
And it does split and puts another bucket in. I could see the argument being there.
Yeah, we've already seen issues when we create another bucket on the weekend with the event queue, where we've had issues between event queue and pulling a bunch of, particularly with the Solaris, they pulled a bunch of individuals out, and there was a logjam of groups that couldn't launch a match because they were all at the top of the search list with groups of 2s, 3s, 4s, but there wasn't enough singles in there to fill out the rest of the 12-man teams, because the
Which
event queue had basically vacuumed them all up in there, which was
is
great to
obviously
see
a
because people
population
were
issue,
it
right?
was a population issue, but yeah, it was really interesting to see when you start funneling players into one mode versus another mode, how you're essentially making like creating problems for the previous mode of like just quick play.
Pretty
One of
much
the
every
things that
time. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Matt.
one of the ideas that I've heard kicking around the community that I want to ask the engineers to investigate is something like event queue, but for quick play. Like the idea that not like event queue, but drop decks, so
About
that
to
you
ask
could
you that.
have your single mech selection and then your drop deck selection, and then you drop in or you start searching, and then you could potentially vote for a mode that is inclusive of the drop deck, and then you go into that mode. That's something I'm way more interested in solving or interested in pursuing than the group queue. Personally, I just think that's a more of a universal win for everybody.
There's
I mean,
definitely been a strong positive reaction to the drop decks in event queue. That's been the biggest reaction, the biggest thing that people have attached.
I've been bothering them, by the way, including myself. Yeah. I've been sending Daeron messages like, "Hey, bro. Well, okay. I was about to ask how are you guys felt about event queue, because when I've played event queue and I've talked to I mean, Beef has been playing and he's been back and he's really enjoyed it. Magic and some of the other streamers, and Magic would play event queue I think 24/7 if he could, and
he would, yeah.
But and he said as much to me. But it's one of those things where like you guys have created an event queue and you put in basically respawns, and I absolutely love it. And then it also it changes the game slightly, tactically, strategically, and all that fun stuff. But it's one of those things where I don't know how long we've wanted it to where, oh, I took a brawler and I just got Frozen City, like, then maybe I want to pick something else, and so. To me, that's what I was literally about to ask you about event queue, and like, have you considered doing quick play where you have drop decks? Because
absolutely, we've talked multiple times about it.
Because it's already there. You have the system. Obviously, you'd have to finagle some other stuff, but like you have a system in place already.
It's fun.
I think that there's other potential issues, right? If you want to talk about weight class distribution, right? So if you go into a match where you're going to have a single mech, but then you bring a drop deck, and then you're going to make a choice of what mech you're going to launch with off out of the gate. We're going to have, how do we balance that? Because player choice.
Well, so one of the things that I saw recently, quick shout out to Tori in chat, Yrot, he said, or instead of drop decks, just make it unlimited respawns, basically. So you're in the mech, it locks it that way too. Right. You don't have to mess with like, oh, we're in a group of 4 and how tonnage works, or, oh, I wasn't an assault, but now I'm in a light mech, and the balance, whereas, like, and so that was an idea too, is just basically have infinite, or.
So you came in with your brawler, but you get to drop with it 3 more times after you.
Granted, it's not as nice because you go back to, well, you're in a Frozen City and you're in a brawl and you don't get to choose. But I mean, I just feel like respawns, it adds, God, I wish that it been able to test this out years ago, because I do feel like it's really enjoyable and it's reminiscent.
Faction play, Phil, this whole time.
Yeah, but
I know you're not a fan of faction play.
Yeah, let's not go there
now. But here's the thing: the what Respawns has done in event queue is it's fun, it is enjoyable, and it's something that we haven't done other than faction play, which has its issues, which is why people don't do that as much. That is different. It's the most different thing that we've introduced in a long time. And even with the introduction that we've done and the success of event queue, it's still not reaching everybody. So there's tons of people who are playing, just go in and play solo, or I'm sorry, quick play. That's all they do. They log in, half hour, play event queue, and that's it. They don't check out what's happening in event queue. They don't quick play. They don't check out what's happening in faction play. Too many plays. And so, I think bringing that essentially to the masses would just bottom line be a good move.
Yeah, because then you still leave event queue to be funny, and you do whatever your
Event queue
2-3 times Seabill
Yeah.
events, Solaris. You could still do your Assault Atlas, whatever.
Yep. There's a lot of things to do with event queue.
Yeah.
I still want to keep pushing on event queue. I think event queue is awesome, and there's more things I'd like to see come to event queue as well. And I would almost, again, we get X amount of engineering time this year, and so it's prioritizing where that engineering time goes to maximize the output and the experience for the player and what's going to be the best. And I think, we touched on at the very beginning, there's perception. People perceive that this is going to be the biggest change or the thing that's going to make the game the most fun. And then I think there's reality, and they don't always, meet.
Well, in this case, I think the reality of it is you already have it. It's event queue. So when I go and play, I'm like, oh man, this is like really enjoyable. Obviously, there's balanced stuff. Conquest, we ran into like, oh, it needs to be a little bit longer and this and that. But those are things
that's why I don't do it anymore. Yeah,
you can bounce. You can bounce off and make adjustments, or which maps are better and stuff. But that's awesome. I mean, like I said, I guess you guys, we can just roll on from there. I mean, is there anything else with event queue that you guys want to talk about? Like, is there anything else other than you did have an event that I was here this past, but I just totally forgot about it because I don't play it on a weekly basis, like during the week. And so someone was like, oh, weren't you playing? I was like, first off, I just totally forgot it was even going on. And I was like, also, I just wish it was just part of quick play. Just,
I do one last comment on event queue from me. I don't know if Matt has anything, but basically just want to make the community aware that every weekend prior to the monthly patch is going to be a Solaris weekend. So that's every month. Players can count on it. It's going to change. We had the first time it was, I think, clan heavies, and I forgot what I did last. Mediums, maybe. I don't know. But anyway, every time it's going to be a different bracket. And it's going to be every weekend prior to the patch. And then at least one other weekend every month, there's going to be another event queue thing. So, and when I say weekend, I'm typically talking 4 days. And that's going to be geared towards more, other stuff, not Solaris drops. And there's the chance of doing more. I haven't reached out to this person yet, but, Beef, essentially. I want to try and do a wacky Wednesday with Beef, and he's just fun and he plays goofy stuff, and I'd like to reach out to him to kind of put a wacky Wednesday together with me, and so there's a chance for a lot of things to happen with event queue, and that will continue going on throughout the year. But definitely, I think from the results that we've seen from event queue, I would love to see drop decks or respawn move to quick play.
That being said, Solaris, someone asked me today about in Solaris, you guys had Duncan Fisher stuff. You don't in the Solaris stuff. I didn't know if that was something that could be easily implemented or whatever, but someone did ask about that. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, the whole Solaris mode had a unique entrance and exit point with the spawning and everything. And when we put it in event queue, it doesn't have all the same triggers and events that surround it, unfortunately. So we lost some of that stuff.
Okay.
So Solaris is just pure.
I asked.
And, yeah.
So there you go.
I would love to. I mean, I love George and I love all that, everything Duncan Fisher. But yeah, that's the situation. Also
in the vlog, you guys talked about not necessarily time jump, but time jump weapons wise, tech wise. You guys said, hey, how does the community feel about if it doesn't look any different aesthetically, or the models don't look any different on the mechs? Everything I saw as far as a reaction was positive. No one was against it and said, yeah, it's better than nothing. Do you guys have an update with that? Is that something you guys are going to pursue? Is that something to expect this year, this quarter, next quarter, or anything like that?
Not this quarter. Yeah, I mean, that's probably a Q3, Q4 kind of goal. Obviously, our big thing right now is the legendary mechs, the legendary rebrand.
We'll talk about
that.
Sure.
That's coming out in March. So we've been just really, really busy the last 2 months getting everything ready to launch that in the next patch.
Okay.
So along with working on some of the the matchmaking, like gathering up the intel and stuff like that, like getting the data and getting it ready to start worked on when we have the resources there. But also, like we said, identifying additional tasks that we may want to pursue instead of or as well as the matchmaker.
I don't think there's anybody that doesn't want to pursue that, Phil. Like, I think that's kind of just a
no-brainer.
There would be no reason why we would say no. There's no reason why the community really would say no. It's just new weapons, whatever. So
there's reasons. They're just like production reasons, which involve hiring a new artist, which is something that I've been working on getting. And the skill set of that new artist has to be pretty broad, right? Very technical person, but artistic as well. And so as far as something we've been doing with adding the legendary mechs in the last one, we've been putting new hardpoints or moving hardpoints around and supporting new weapons on these mechs. And we've seen the result of that, which is like a mech having a very specific weapon as a fallback weapon for a ballistic. So it doesn't have an ultra AC, whatever. It's using the UAC model when you equip that. So that is, for some reason, the way it's behaving. And we were like, okay, well, we need an artist to come in and fix that bug, or it's going to go out looking incorrect. So moving forward, when we cross that line into exploring new weapons, which would have to have, a new, weapon type, localization, sounds, and then if we can't, do 3D models, it would have to make sure that there is actually a reliable fallback model that weapon can go to. So each mech in the game has, all the actual geometry for all the potential weapons to be attached to it included in that file. And then the MDF, which is the mech description file, calls each one of those models within there to actually create the model and then draw it in the game in the correct way. So there's potential risks there. There's potential work there that we haven't identified, but it is definitely a goal for us this year to see what we can add for new weapons. And the Cauldron has given us a list of things they're interested in trying to add to the game. I don't have that list in front of me right now, but that's what
we do have it.
Yeah.
Is that also not just weapons, but equipment, or is that?
I don't know about equipment. I was really just saying I think weapons in the thing, but it's something we're willing to take a look at. But equipment can dictate functionality, which dictates which dictates engineering time and or UI needs to it. So what we're trying to do is do the things we can do with the team that we have as much as possible, because we'll get blocked in various avenues from being able to develop. If we go, okay, well, let's add a piece of equipment. It's like, well, now it doesn't work. Now we can't execute on this. So we'll try and do it in chunks. Weapons would be the simplest thing for us to do. Will be try and implement new weapons of similar type. So if there's an auto cannon that is new, and we can say, okay, use that model for it, and it's going to work, and it's going to equip on all mechs and be functional and have a new statistical set, then that would be the ideal.
Okay. So we'll touch base later on that, I guess, down the road, end of Q2, maybe Q3. I'll bring this back up if we do another podcast. You mentioned legendary mechs and this new, you guys more or less proposed it to the community. It's a rebranding of MWO Solaris to MWO at the time Legends. Have you guys settled on that? Obviously, Daeron, I had sent you an article about Apex. There was a Titanfall, I should say Titanfall, not Apex. Titanfall Legends game was scrapped. So did you guys decide on that? Did you see the pushback? Mainly I saw, which was it's too close to Living Legends. Have you guys made any concrete? Obviously it's March, so I figure you might have an answer.
we've got yeah, it's full steam ahead. I'm gonna just answer this. There's lots of games that have legends in the title. If you search for them, it's not an uncommon thing. The whole reason we chose it is we wanted to create this next tier of mech above heroes. So standard, champion, hero, legend, and it's rebranded into Legends, and it may rebrand later. Again, if we continue to evolve the product. But what I had to do, or what we needed to do, is we needed to get rid of the Solaris 7 branding, because we weren't a Solaris game anymore. It just didn't make any sense. and we didn't want to go backwards to just MechWarrior Online, no sub branding. So we decided to move forward, and the content strategy was around the legendary mechs. So
Okay, so you guys have settled on legendary mechs. That also came with a sort of a semi battle pass system, at your guys' version of battle pass system. Let me just ask: is this going to be happening this month? Like all of this rebranding and everything is going to be March?
Yep.
Okay.
In fact, you have screenshots of the first 2 legendary mechs coming out.
Okay. Do we want to talk about that right now, or do you want to, like?
Might as well. I mean, we're on the subject of MechWarrior Online Legends, and talk about legendary mechs.
The first image I'm going to bring up here is the Fafnir. It is in Christmas colors, I think. I don't really know what this is. Also, this is a map I don't recognize, and I'm sure we'll get into this. I have a few screenshots here. So this is a Fafnir. All right, so this is a preview of... Don't faff around. I get that. One of the legendary maps.
We want to give the name of the mech, Matt?
Yeah. So the Fafnir legendary mech is called the Juggernaut.
The Juggernaut. Okay.
Yep.
So first off, you're gonna make some people's day. There's ballistic in the arms. I see at least 2 ballistics right here. Obviously, you got the Fafnir's torsos, and then I see another on each side of its chin. So if my numbers serve me, I at least see 8 ballistics. Am I correct in that assumption here?
Yes, you are.
My eyes don't deceive me. All right. Why did you pick the Fafnir? Was this a request? I guess that's a fair question. Was this...
Actually, it was our level designer who came up with the idea in January. We did it as a test, and the test was, okay, with just a designer, so the person who's been working with the Cauldron, can we execute on this idea and put it in the game? And then people saw it. It was up on
yeah, it was in the patch.
Yeah, it was in the patch. It was up on MechDB. So you guys saw some of the information there. I don't think it had its quirks or any of the other stuff.
No, it didn't
associated with it. So it was coming through as the J. Did it come through as the J? Is that what it?
F or something. It was something like that. But
so it wasn't fully executed on, but it was just in a branch. It was an experiment to go like, can we do this? And it was based on their level designer's design, Krasdax, and so we really liked it. And then we talked to the Cauldron with it. We went back and forth with them on it, got some quirk ideas from them, and then from there we initially put the designation of J on it, and we ended up naming the Juggernaut. And the theme for the skin was like kind of inspired by those like bomb disposal units, and then ammo crates. So it was a mix between the two, and it's got a really cool bolt on that you don't see in this image, that will be part of the battle pass that you'll unlock when you complete the battle pass.
Okay.
And it was also, just real quick, it was also inspired by a player, somebody who was a positive force in the community, and I won't go into any more than that, but that's kind of where the inspiration also came from.
And so obviously, just to recap here, with the legendary mechs, Hero Mechs always they were unique hard points, right? And then they get a 30% C-build boost. Mm-hmm. With a legendary, what is this? Just to recap, outside of just hard points, what's special about that?
Got the outlier quirk, and then unfortunately, in this month, we're not able to give it additional bonuses. We have determined that we can give 2 bonuses to a mech, but it's going to be defined as a special mech for now. So it's in the same category as a hero. So it's getting a 30% C-build boost at this point. Right. But along with that, one of the things we are looking at doing, not in March, but the following patch, is we want to talk to the community about this and get your feedback. With champions, would you guys be okay with us getting rid of the 30% XP boost and splitting it between XP and C-bills so that champions are 15% XP, 15% C-bill boost? I think that's something people have asked for in the past.
I think
So
you'd
we
probably
have
get a
determined that we can do a dual boost, but we can't do that on the legendary until we create that fourth mech type, because we really only have standard champions and heroes and specials, which kind of fall into the same category.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I think you might see some positive around there. I think a lot of people have asked about that.
I think so too.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna go to the second mech image. You guys ready for this?
Yep.
Okay. So obviously this is the Fafnir again. This is the frontal sort of aspect again. 8 ballistics. Another shot here, and all right. So we're going to the next mech, and that is a Mark II, and this is. I'm looking at this correctly. There are at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ballistics. Is that correct? Or
I think you're right. Yeah, I don't know the exact specs. Again, this one was Cauldron design purely. They came up with this suggestion based on me giving them the criteria of like use existing hardpoints, but reconfigure the mech to have that to be a new variant. So this has a set of 8 quirks and is a lot of ballistic hardpoints for the Mark II.
yeah, it looks
And
like
it's
2 in the right torso and then 2 in each arm. That's what it looks like. I don't see any in the left torso, but maybe actually no. There's one right here. I'm incorrect. There's one right here. There's 2 right here. There's a cannon. This is a cannon. I didn't even notice that. It might be an energy. Might be a peep. I'm not sure. Or an AC ultra. Or I'm not sure. So
This mech, by the way, is designated the Moonwalker, so it has kind of like a bit of a space theme going on, and
yeah, and the reason it's called Moonwalker, I think, is because it's got really high backwards walking speed.
here we go.
yeah, it does.
This helps when I just go to the next image, and it's the frontal picture. So there you go. Oh, it's CT ballistic. So that means UAC 2 LB2. Okay. I see what they did there. So right torso 1 ballistic, left torso energy, left to right arm, and then the CT. Okay, that's lots.
And if you didn't hear, I think that's a kind of a cool attribute. It walks backwards faster than.
Oh, really?
As fast as forwards. Yeah, it's got a backward speed quirk.
Gotcha. Okay. All
Hence
right.
the name Moonwalker, right?
Gotcha. I see what you did there. All right. So we're gonna obviously the elephant in the room is this is a new map. So I'm gonna go to the first image of this new map. This is very reminiscent of a Solaris map with the balloons and the fireworks going off. First thing catches your eye: purple. Lots.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, it's
purple.
It's amazing.
This is like a combo of Hibernal Rift with the purple coloring, Grim Plexus with the crystal spires, with a little bit of, I guess, I mean, wall. I don't know if it's necessary from like, yeah. So this is the new map that's coming out in March. Does this have a name? Are you guys there?
Yep.
Did we lose connection?
No, I was asking if this has a name.
Yep. Free Worlds Coliseum.
Free Worlds FWL. All right. So this is obviously Krasdak's first map. Going to the second image here. Obviously Cicada. Very vibrant. Looks like rolling hills. That's what I'm getting. It doesn't look like there's any like crazy
Just rock formations, but yeah, rolling hills, trees, and some rock formations, but there's not any crazy terrain, mountains or tunnels or
elevation
or anything.
Yeah, elevation.
I mean, there's
high,
there's
low.
areas that are elevated. It's pretty well balanced so that any elevated points, it's matched on the other side. And for perspective in terms of scale, I think the final image, which you're not at yet, can kind of give you an idea.
Yeah, that was
of how
the
big the map
Cicada.
is.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
the final one has a little arrow pointing it to the Moonwalker. It's from
So
above
that's
image.
Okay, so yeah, it's a pretty big map. Okay.
It's very big. It looks deceptively small if you're just looking at the Coliseum picture because the trees are kind of oversized.
Yeah, they're a lot bigger in.
But that arrow is pointing at the Moonwalker. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. And it looks like again you've got these blimps and fireworks going off. Is that
Yeah, it's a Coliseum. It's
okay. Purple theme, Free Worlds League.
we heard you like purple.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is that what it is?
Well, I mean, the nice thing about it is visually distinct from anything else we have out there.
Yep,
So
that's definitely true.
he did take something, created a new map from something that and made it look really unique using existing assets. So I think he did a really good job. And when you're in there, it looks really cool.
So again, this is coming in this patch.
Yes.
As well. Okay. So, and I will make sure these images are posted on the Discord and all that. Get these out to the Reddit.
And just to let you know, also, obviously this map will be tuned so that it drops more once a patch goes out, like we normally do with a new map. But also, it is dropship enabled, so it'll be. I'll also do an event queue event around this map, and it'll have dropships. You can use that, so it's going to be fun. We're going to have a lot of fun on this map in a couple weeks.
And this is also just a reminder to Navid. Remember to fix my Cicada 3M hardpoints. You know what I'm talking about, Navid. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Speaking of maps, I think again, excited. New maps are always fun. Not for the first week. Usually we're getting crushed because we don't know what we're doing. But the difference here is less verticality than like Vitric. Vitric, man, is it's interesting. I'm gonna switch back to just camera here, so we'll switch back over here. You have some very heated when it comes to maps. Some people really like River City. Some people really like Emerald Vale. Some people really like, Terra Therma. Old or new or whatever. Man, Vitric Forge is one of those maps, and I think the reason being is there's no room for mistakes on the map because you can get flanked left, right, and then at 3-dimensional you can get flanked left, right, and there's so many areas where you can get shot from, whether it's from top, rear, I mean, you name it. It's one of those maps where if you're not on the ball and the enemy team is, and I think that's why I see a lot of sometimes negativity towards that map of like because it's I think it's a great map, but I think it can be very, very punishing.
That's interesting. The comments I get most are that it's people's favorite map, and it's not Vitric Forge, it's Vitric Station. We're talking about the quick play version or event queues. But I get very often people saying it's their favorite map, it's the best map, it's the most balanced, etc., and the most fun. Every map gets its people that love it and detractors. Every single map. There's people that love Terra Therma, right? So need I say more? So I think it's just subjective. That's the way people are, right?
I think what I think is really cool about it is like Francois made that map, and like he really brought something new to the game. Like you said, it's one of the most you have to be super tactically aware of your positioning, but also like keenly aware of where the enemy is on that map. So if you can't name another map like that in MWO, then he did a really great job of bringing some new gameplay and some new elements to the game, in my opinion. Whether you love it or hate it, you have to admit that it's completely different than anything else we have, right?
Yeah. At least people aren't indifferent about it. That's what I always say.
It's not Crucible. I mean, it's not like
it's not Crucible.
I was gonna ask about Crucible. Like, obviously, it's not.
It's getting a round of changes in this patch too.
Okay, so it is. Okay.
Yep.
It'll probably get changes every single month. I feel like. We're never going to find the perfect Crucible. But anyway, the thing I like about Free World's Coliseum is that, again, I think it's a little bit unlike anything else we have. I mean, there's elements, obviously, that are similar, but it's not we could easily go, okay, well, tons of people like Vitric Station. Let's just, boom, make a carbon copy, just change the colors or the, whatever elements we're using to build the map. But I feel like this is just a different map, and it makes a difference when you get in there in a mech and actually walk around. Again, pictures only do so much. And I think that there's going to be, like you said, that first week, people don't know what to do. I think it's going to be fun. I always have a good time watching that first week, actually,
You
because
like
that's a
watching
really
us
good.
suffer? Is that what you?
No, it's a good study of player behavior, right? Because that first week, we're not all doing the same thing. At a certain time, a month down the line, everybody's essentially doing the same thing every time they drop on a map that they've been dropping for a long time because we get in patterns. So it's really fun. Yeah, I like watching people go crazy, but I also like watching, just see how people figure out and use the map. And I think the hills are going to be a lot of fun. You'll have cover. Yeah, I think it's going to be another just a fun map. So I'm looking forward to playing it and watching people.
And this is the first map we've had from Krasdax. I mentioned this last week. I was like, we haven't seen. He's been awesome as far as adjusting things. But I was like, but this will be the first map we can actually judge map balance and how it works out. And so Krasdax, we're coming for you if you're listening. But yeah, so looking forward to that.
He knows every corner of that map. Good luck finding him.
So, obviously you guys are rebranding. That's happening this month. So it'll in 2 weeks time. As far as the game is concerned and mechs, and you guys did mention potentially introducing a new mech. Is that something that's still on your guys' radar for 2023 or multiple mechs?
Absolutely. We've been looking at the concept art for it that Alex has already drawn.
Is the stone rhino really nice looking? Is that what it is?
No comment.
Yeah.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm calling it now. I'm sure. I'm also not to put you guys on the spot, so you don't have to. Any blinking of the eyes will confirm my suspicions. I think it'll be MechWarrior 6 Clan Invasion, and you guys are just gonna be, bringing the Stone Rhino over, and then we'll have, the MWO Clan mechs. We'll just go to that, and it's all right, I haven't talked. I don't know. Have I talked to you since Russ's podcast? And him dropping that little, did anybody know he was gonna be dropping that?
I came in and talked to you.
Well, like
on MW5, and then.
Okay. Yeah.
Just chatting on your stream.
Yeah. Okay.
But no. So, this.
Did you guys know he was gonna drop that little bit of tidbit of info?
On
the podcast.
What do you think?
No.
Russ is the CEO of our company, and he can do what he wants to.
Understood. Obviously, you guys can't talk about the project. Even if you wanted to, you can't. So I won't even put you on the spot. Other than I know you guys will probably be, busy with that whenever that time from. He did say it was going to be announced later on this year. So I'll talk to you guys.
Oh, we've already got a lot of little elves working on it.
Yeah.
We got a busy office. Well, we got a lot of people busy in their homes, I should say.
Yeah.
Dude, this is going to be another fun year. Like I'm super stoked on it.
I think that the reason, personally, I think the reason why why Russ came on and talked to you, Phil, is that, and dropped that knowledge, is that I think ever since we got acquired by EG7, there's been a bit of a gun shyness for us to discuss things. Like I know personally, like I, think about things like now, like, oh, well, there's like quarterly reports. Like there was never quarterly reports going out.
We get to see all the details.
PGI, just privately owned company, right? Now, they're owned by EG7, and what we're doing every quarter gets talked about and put in their quarterly reports for revenues and this, that, and the other thing, right? So, it changes, how we feel or view talking about things or releasing information without Russ's clearance or whatever. So when Russ wants to drop a hint about something, Russ drops a hint about something. But for us, just what we announce when announcement plans are solid and going out, and they're in press releases and those kind of things. So
also would like to point out those quarterly reports aren't always the best thing to necessarily go by in terms of, it being 100% accurate, right? Because we've seen a few of them, and there's some things that.
Oh no, I think they're accurate at the time, right? They're accurate at the time they're written, right?
Yes.
Like when we were going to be working on Lord of the Rings, and everybody.
I'm just saying it's not definitive,
this is
right?
Like, this is like what MechWarrior is going to be no more, and Piranha Games is going to move on. But I think what Russ the reason Russ came on your podcast and wanted to give that information out to the community as much as possible. We want people to know that we're very much still working on the MechWarrior IP, both with MWO, with MechWarrior 5, this other project. And he even opened the door to, MechWarrior Online too. I know recently you tweeted him, Phil, and you're like, when are we going to start talking about MechWarrior Online too?
We talked about this, Phil.
Well,
yeah, exactly.
It's fair,
we already talked about it, but I mean, it's not where he's saying like we're closing the door on it. And even internally we talk about it, and Russ is like, yeah, let's get these other products, at the point where we can do that, because you have only so much capacity to plan and scope and design and put energy into projects. And right now we've got MWO, MW5, and whatever this other thing is, right?
Yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah. So that's a lot on the go. We just dropped a patch yesterday for MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries, so hopefully people are enjoying that patch. I know we've been getting some feedback on it, but continuing to the company is still very much invested in and interested in creating MechWarrior related products, and I'll work on it for the rest of my life if I can, because I love the IP. I love the community, and there's just so much unexplored areas that I think we could take the IP in the future. And I think that, to me, there may not be a MechWarrior Online 2 one day, but I think there should be another MechWarrior PvP, PvE experience that is in this space.
Sure. I mean, one of the things, that him bringing that up is, and I've been trying to do a really good job of saying when someone comes in and says, what are your thoughts on MWO2? And I'm like, I don't think you should call it MWO2, because I think that leads on that, one, it's the exact same type of game. It's just new engine, and you get to have all, but I was like, I think it's better to say MechWarrior Online successor, or MechWarrior, what's the next MechWarrior PvP
consider
game
that a code name or a working title. It's
But I think it's important. I think it's important when discussion with the community is saying, like, because expectations are like, I mean, you guys have heard it, like, we've had it, people in the past, like, if you guys take away everything, it's like, but it's a weird thing that gamers are just now experiencing with other titles of live service games that go away. And there are games right now that you can't access your stuff anymore, and so it's like it's just gone. So it's like, whereas previously, like, even if MechWarrior 4, you still had servers and commute fans could do it, and blah blah blah. But it's like now you've got entire communities that are based on products that are all digital, and what happens when whatever for point in time they and that's the difference between, like, Overwatch went to Overwatch 2, basically. It just transferred everything over. So that's a live service game that basically took that model and adapted and moved everything and all of its assets, because it was basically it was the same game, just, whereas like something like, MWO, I feel like is so old, as far as there's a lot of things you want to do. And there's, from a design standpoint, from a monetization standpoint, which I think is actually probably the big thing people don't realize, is like how integral your design is. I mean, from the 3 mechs of a kind sort of grind, that's a part of the monetization model, right? To push premium time. Same thing World of Tanks, like a tier system, and like repair and rearm. It's all part of a monetization model, because like it's, again, it sort of pushes that on the player, and so everything changes. I think the bummer, if I'm just honest with me, is that, okay, let's just say you guys end up doing a successor. We're not going to see that for 5 years from now, even if that's true. I mean, because you guys have 2 more years, let's just say why wouldn't you extend it? I think that was sort of Russ's point when doing the podcast, was like, we've extended it so many times. There's no one else lining up at the door that we know of. Why wouldn't Microsoft sort of give the thumbs up to that? But that still means, like, even if you start development, that's not going to be for at least 2 years from now, unless, and this is something I tell people on stream, unless Russ is already working on it and we would have no idea anyways. There's always a possibility. It's just that is possible. But yeah,
I think it could be looked at both negatively and positively, right? I mean, the idea that we would be working on and releasing another PvP MechWarrior game in 3, 4, 5 years, to me, yeah, it's negative because we don't want to wait, but it's positive because it means that the MechWarrior franchise is just going on and on and on.
Yes, it is awesome, but from a person that loves MWO,
yeah, of course,
and you're not. I mean, Russ did say you guys are going to get more resources, and here you are saying that some of the matchmaker changes and other changes, which, by the way, I want to revert in a second, ask what other things you were talking about. It's going to look like June or July again between we see one patch again. And it's like, that's, to me, it's like, okay, we're basically getting one like big feature change a year. You know, it's like, you know, and I get it for all the reasons. You don't have to defend. I know you guys would love more resources, but like, that means I have to.
Remember what I said back in the beginning is that this is a 10-year-old game. And so the idea that we're going to be, you know, like I feel like we're getting pretty close to getting a game that we just maintain, you know, like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I love adding new stuff. Don't get me wrong, but
hey, if we get
just maintain, but we add new things.
Yeah, if we get respawn drop decks and it's the next best thing is sliced pie, you know, like I get it. So like I don't want to be like negative. It's just from a PvP standpoint, you know, like that's one thing we just.
No, I know, man.
You know, so let's go back to you mentioned other features, Matt.
Well, yeah, I mean the idea was that one, I want to have that fourth type of mech, which is the legendary mech, so it can have a dual boost like the champions will have in the future. So that's a new mech type. But the thing I was really talking about was the stuff that the community has been talking about, which is like, why can't we have drop decks and quick play? Then people are enjoying the event queue. So that's really, to me, is like sparked it of like, okay, so is our best investment of time in, you know, overhauling the matchmaker, or is it like doing a few changes to the matchmaker to improve it and then pouring some resources into making it so in quick play you can have a single mech choice or a drop deck choice. Sure. And when you go into the vote screen and you choose a specific mode, you're now using your drop deck loading into that mode, as opposed to just loading in with a single mech. I think that might be a more interesting expenditure of those resources. And I think it's good sometimes when, you know, we make plans of like, okay, this is how we're going to spend the resources, but then these ideas come out of the community and they get you know, inertia. They get, you know, people coming up and going like, this is actually a really good idea, and then we can take that and go like, oh, this is probably a better use of our expense or our resources for this amount of time, so let's pursue that instead. So that was really what I was talking about. Gotcha. We're just listening to the community and going, okay, well, how do we make the best possible use of those resources? And overhauling the matchmaker for a, you know, a 5% improvement may not, you know, is probably not the best use of those resources. I think most people would probably rather have drop decks and quick play.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I've sort of said that as to Naveed. I was we were talking about XL engines, and I was like, is there something written in stone that we can't talk about ISXLs and then possibly PGI, you guys doing like omnis or IS omnis, or the relationship between the side torso heat loss? I know we talk about that daily, which, if you want to talk about fun factor, has been completely negative as far as you know, gameplay experience. I was shown a response from the said developer that implemented it, and he said there was a technical reason. If that's true, I think there could be some explanation to the community, but I feel like XL side torso have conversations with Naveed on that. I did want to bring up one thing, a question about skill tree has been positive. I think we can all agree. A lot of people have been coming back, funny enough, that haven't played. It's always surprising. Someone says, yeah, I was a founder and I stepped away. And I'm like, that's a long time step away from a game. Is it possible to where trial mechs, one, obviously a few more trial. So, oh, by the way, I did want to point out, someone said they were in event queue and trial mechs, like they weren't able to take this, or I don't know if it's true. They weren't able to take because they didn't have a bunch of assaults. So that was one thing to consider. I don't know if you want those individuals in event queue, but skills. Can we talk about having new players' skills, like have the The Cauldron's already providing you with Stormcrow, Laser Vomit, whatever. Also a template of locking in those skills so they're fully done. Because like I've had so many new players ask about that, and also experienced players about like, hey, you know, like these new players are still getting the little bit of the shaft on that one. I didn't know if that's good use of resources. I just tossed that out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've talked about it before. I don't remember where the conversation went to or whether the technical discussion where it got to either. But I think it's a decent idea. Like it's like, you know, here's your test mech, but it's not operating at subpar levels, so that when you get into the game, you're actually having more fun out of the gate rather than feeling like you're somehow got training or hobbled because of that. So personally, I've never been a fan of skill trees in a free to play game. I think that or having that kind of situation where there can be that much of a gap, unless you have a large enough population where you've only got this shallow end for your new players to mess around in and be safe from the sharks, so to speak. We don't have that shallow end. I mean, our matchmaker now starts them off at tier 5 when it used to start them off at tier 3, and they'd have to like drop to tier 5 in order to get good matches. So we've done, you know, some of those changes to try and corral them in a little bit, but they're still in there with other tier 5 players that have leveled their mechs just due to grinding them out or getting GSP from events. So yeah, it's something we've talked about. I don't remember where it went to. I mean, we can still look at it again as far as one of the engineering spends on the resources, but I don't remember where it got to. But
so I don't know if it's a small I mean, like I said, I don't know, because obviously it's there. It's just you're basically saying, hey, if you take this, then it locks that in, and then that way, because I think
that the issue is that like it comes with mech ownership. I'm like, just my brain is processing in the background. My second CPU, which is slow, is telling me that someone was saying that because you don't own it, and skill trees are on a mech by mech basis. So if you have a, you know, 4 of an exact same mech, or like a Hunchback 4SP, for example, you've got 4 of them. The skill tree is unique for each one because you own that one and it's got this skill tree. You own that one, it's got this skill tree. You own that one, it's got this skill tree. You don't own champions. You don't own those particular champions. You're just going into the match with them, and the loadout's predetermined. So there's no mech ownership. Therefore, there's no skill tree created in the database. There's no link between the two.
Yeah,
I believe was the issue. Whether it's solvable or not, I don't know.
Okay. I wonder if we could like quirk trial mechs or something like that to try and make up the difference.
Then we'd be quirking champions because they're the same thing. Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah. Anyways, just tossing that out there.
I would totally change the champion system now if I could. Like looking back on it, there's lots of things that we could have done differently. Lots of different ways we could have spent those resources over the years, but hindsight's always 2020, right?
Sure.
And even then you're like, okay, well, if I had taken this path, it would have been, you know, the right path. So if you went back in time and did that, would it necessarily have been the right thing? You don't know that till you've got hindsight again, right?
Sure. Okay.
Little time travel puzzle for you.
Yeah. I mean, go down that path. So I mean, you know, as far as you know, upcoming stuff, is there anything else that the community is not aware of, or that you guys wanted to bring up? Just I didn't know if
I've been getting a lot of. I mean, this is not anything probably you'll be interested in because you own everything in the game, but I've been getting hit up by a lot of the community asking for just more varied sales or whatever, things to purchase Warhorns, cockpit items, etc. So just letting everybody know that the spring bundles will be out soon. That'll have a bunch of new in-game content for good deals. And just keep an eye out for those event queues, you know, ongoing throughout the year. Every month, we're really going to take advantage of it and have some fun. I want to work with creators and do some event queues based around their ideas and the stuff that they like to do. Yeah, I can't think of anything else specifically MWO. I mean, obviously, you know, what we're saying now may change the next time we have a podcast with you based on our investigations and what we find out. So, I think there's still going to be a lot of stuff to look forward to. I'm really excited about the rebrand. We've been working on it for quite a few months, and we've been working on the rebrand for 2-3 years, but we're finally there. And so, like Matt said, even if it's a temporary rebrand, it's only a year or two or whatever, and we rebrand again, that's fine. But I think it totally applies, and I'm excited about MechWarrior Online Legends. I'm excited about the legendary mechs. I'm excited about the events that are going to go around, be included with the legendary mechs, essentially our battle pass system. And I still think there's a lot of exciting
battle
things
pass
to come.
Just to recap really quick, you guys are doing something a little bit different. Obviously, when you buy a legendary mech, you get all the stuff that you guys are going to have as far as pack, right? But people are able to unlock stuff like normally on a battle pass you have a window time frame, it's season based, like Apex or whatever.
No window.
You guys aren't doing that.
I can describe the battle pass if you want.
Sure.
So the legendary mechs are going to be $15 US, but they're also going to be on Steam. So if you prefer to pay in your own currency and you haven't got your installer through Steam, you can go install MWO through Steam now, and those packs will be up on the patch date for you to purchase there. When you get them and you start playing them in game, the XP that you earn using that mech will unlock content on your battle pass. And to view your battle pass, you'll actually have to go to the legendary mech page to see your progress on the battle pass. We've got it set at a cadence of it should take like a mid-tier player or like a lower to mid-tier player 2 matches to unlock each tier, and then someone who's really good can unlock a tier each match. So it's going to be pretty rewarding, and it's only really 20 tiers. And so a lot of the content that you would have just gotten out of the gate with these mechs is actually going to go into the battle pass, but there's significantly more of it. And then there's also currency and premium time and other items within there as well. So in some ways you could view it as like it's taking some of the content from the pack and putting it into the battle pass, but it's a way better value. Once you guys look at it and see the price, the content, and what you get from unlocking all your tiers, I think that you'll realize that it's a super good value. You actually get $15 worth of US worth of MC as well. So basically, if you're going to go spend $14.95 MC on MC to buy something, you're actually better off to going and grabbing one of these legendary mechs and getting the mech with its 30% C-bill boost, and then title badge, and then going through and unlocking the content associated with the mini battle pass and all the currency as well.
Yeah, it's going to be a really good value for sure.
And so you said that's not tracked in game, like when you click the
No,
events
unfortunately,
or
it's
whatever.
not. Yeah.
Okay. So that's
and the reason
If
that
we could,
is
we would.
because it's permanent. We don't want it's not going away. So if you buy it now or you wait a year from now, the battle pass will still exist. There's enough things in MWO that can induce FOMO of, like, whether it's a weekend event that we put on or a sale or the monthly free mech where they're like, I just don't have enough time to grind it out, which reminds me we still have to do the Lucky Charms event this month and get a free mech for that. But the whole point of these legendary mechs is that you should be like, look at it and go like, that's a great value. I may not buy it now, but I might buy it a couple months from now, drop $15 or go to Steam and get it for whatever currency is in your region and whatever the price adjustment is, and then play it, enjoy it, unlock stuff. It takes to 20,000 XP to unlock all your stuff in the battle pass. There's premium time out of the gate there, or like the first tier unlock, so that makes your unlocking process faster. I wanted it to take a maximum of like a month of casual play to unlock it all. So I think it's 45,000 XP to get 91 skill nodes on a mech. So this is like under half of that. So by the time you've halfway skilled your mech, you've basically unlocked everything that comes with it.
And you guys are planning on doing one mech per month, or is that changed? One legend?
So it's two mechs this month. We wanted to offer 2. So it's both the Juggernaut and the Moonwalker that are coming out with this next patch. And they're going to have unique bolt-ons that visually set them apart. And that's actually the top tier of the battle pass. So when you see someone running around with their bolt-ons equipped, you're like, oh, they actually finished the battle pass.
Which, by the way, the bolt-ons weren't in those images, just so you're aware.
Yeah, the bolt-ons aren't in the images. They're actually really cool. They're neat design, and they kind of play off of what the name of the mech is. So yeah, that's the design around the battle pass.
Okay, and then per month from here moving forward, are you gonna do one, or are you gonna do more?
Whatever cadence we
good
can
question.
have the space for. So 2 now. We've got 2 more lined up for next month, but we may not release 2. It depends on whether we hire that artist or how capable they are. And a lot depends on the design of them. These have been relatively easy, but they've presented some unique challenges as well. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. There's going to be a pre-order coming out at some point for some unnamed mech. So that may be the month we do only 1 legendary mech or 0 legendary mechs. We'll see. But 2 out of the gate, and then we've got 2 more lined up, and then we're going to be working on more after that.
I mean, you guys might as well just own up to it, which mech it's going to be. I mean,
well, here's why we can't, Phil. Ultimately, the reason why we can't own up to it is because potentially even there's room for more than 1 new mech
such a
this
tease.
year. And so, like, which one do I name, right? I'd have to choose.
You'd have to pick.
Yeah,
that's rough. It's tough. Yeah, I get you. You're in a bind there. I mean, I just don't envy you on that one. All right, guys. I've held you up for quite a long time. I'd like to touch back with you guys about the, like I said, new player skills. I feel like that's long overdue, man. And if that is something you guys can knock out. I mean, I know it doesn't affect me, but there are new players every single month that come to this game, and
new players affect all of us, and whether they stay with the game or they leave the game affects all of us.
Let's see. Touch base again about the new weapons down the road. You said Q3, maybe even after Q2. We'll be able to see this new map, Free Worlds Coliseum, in a few weeks. We've got the legendary mechs launching, MechWarrior Online Legends launching, the new battle pass system this month. Is there anything else? Obviously Matchmaker you guys are going to look at. I still do think there's something to be said about getting at least to the cauldron, like how the understanding of Matchmaker, how it works, because you mentioned there was a few things like it balances for this or that. That's not public information. I don't know if it helps the conversation as far as public, but like might explain and give them options. I don't know. There's smart people out there. I am not one of them that can help. We'll come up with a system. Again, still on the fence. I'd have to be shown. Like I said, I think a drop deck system is fantastic for quick play. I do think quick play will need to be adjusted here or there as far as either cap points on that, just because you have that. But man, it's so fun and enjoyable. Yeah, other than that, I mean, is there anything else before we get off here?
I'm sure there'll be a bunch of balance changes coming in the next patch, as well as I think we updated the Cauldron sent us updates, high res updates of all of the badges. So
yeah, okay.
In the front end, they'll just look sharper, which is kind of cool. I'm still planning to update all previous packs badges into decals that you can use in the decal system. So basically, if you own a pack, I'm going to be slowly over time adding decals for each pack that are just the badge but in decal form, and then you'll be able to equip that. But I've got to go. I got to take my son to his
I think
appointment.
we all three got to go. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. Thank you again, and look forward to doing this another time.
Thank you, guys. Hopefully soon.
Bye, guys.
Sounds good. Thanks, Phil.